Xcode. I'm going to create a new Xcode project, and I'm going to have two separate Xcode projects for today. So the first one's going to be on custom table view cells. So I'm just going to call the project custom cells. And I want to blow this up a little bit. Yeah. Glad you asked, because I never looked back there. So, okay, so I have a project called Custom Cells, and it's going to be a table view controller based project. So I'm going to go to the storyboard. I'm going to delete the initial view controller, so that view controller is going to be gone, and I'm going to replace it with a navigation controller, which will bring with it a table view controller. And I just want to give myself some screen real estate. So just moving things over a little bit. I know that this table view, in order to render that table view, I need a table view controller to back that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a table view controller. So I'm going to have a new file. It's going to be a Cocoa Touch class, and it'll be a table view controller. So the subclass is already set for me. So my demo table view controller is what we're going to be dealing with. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to take that storyboard, I want to take that view controller, and I want to say that the class definition that backs it is that demo table view controller. Okay, so this is kind of repetitive stuff that we've done in the past. I want to render out some object, right? So let's deal with a new file, and my new file will be pets. Okay, so I'm going to have a pet class to go along with our farmers that don't care about their pets. So I'm going to have a class called pet, and our pet should have some information like name, what else do we care about our pet? The species. And weight. Okay. And then we'll have an init method that'll take in name and species and weight. Just changing the font a little bit. So in our init method, I want to map those values that are passed in to the class instance variables. So the name will equal the name that's passed in. The species will equal the species that's passed in. And the weight will equal the weight that's passed in. And just so that this is easy to work with, I'm going to implement a couple of protocols. So this is going to implement the custom string convertible protocol, meaning I should be able to get a description. And here I'm going to return kind of all of that information about a pet, right? So I'm going to return the name being self.name, a new line, species being self.species, a new line, weight, I think I can just convert to a string there. I don't know. I don't even know if I have to. I think it'll output a double for me. Okay. So this is my description. This is my model class, right? So I'm going to reorganize things in my project a little bit. It's easy to do right now. So I'm going to create a group. new group, models, pets going in there. I want another group for my controllers. My demo table view controllers go in there. And then my views, I'm going to put the storyboard in there. Everything else looks okay to me. Okay, so then what I want to do is I want to have some data. So I'm going to go to my models. I'm going to add a new class. So it's going to be my pet manager. And what I want to have is a method to get all of my pets, or get pets, right? So here's a Swift function called get pets. There's no parameters. The return type is going to be a collection of pet objects. And I'm just going to hard code some pets. Okay, so here's pets equal to some array of pet. I set the name to Sparky. Sparky's a dog that weighs 22 pounds. And then I need a cat, so Fido the cat. I feel like I screwed something up because I'm not getting IntelliSense here, but
Doesn't want you to name your cat Fido.
well, I don't blame it. Yeah, doesn't want it wants me to return pets. All right, that's fine. Okay, so then one more. So I'll have a pet named Bill. Bill will be a cow. And how much do cows weigh? 900 pounds. All right, I'll take their suggestion and use that let constant. Okay, life's good there. Now that I have those two model classes, I'm going to go back to my table view controller. And the number of sections that I want, I only want one section. I'm going to list all of my pets. The number of rows in the section, well, that's to be defined, but I want it to be equal to the number of pets. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have a variable that's equal to the return value from that function. So I'm going to have a variable called pets. It's going to be equal to some pet array. And by default, it'll be an empty array. In the view did load, I'm going to populate it. And I need a pet manager to do that. So I guess I'm skipping ahead a little bit here. So var manager is equal to a pet manager, and then self.pets. I'm going to ask that manager to get me the pets that I want. Yep, that's fine. So in the view did load, I have my pets loaded, and that's what's going to tell me how many rows are going to be in a section. Okay. So far, so good. We talked a little bit about these cells. So this DQ reusable cell is going to be based on a cell identifier. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to have a pet cell. So my identifier, so if I go back over to the storyboard, I need to go to that table view cell, and it's going to have a cell identifier. So I'm going to call that my pet cell. And that's what's going to allow me then to say I want to dequeue a reusable cell called pet cell. Okay, stuff we've done before. And once we have that cell, there's a couple of different types of cells, right? So we can have a cell where we have an image on the left-hand side and some text. We can have a subtitled cell. We can have a cell with text on the left and right. And we've done that before, and we can do that here. So that's not a big deal. So let's just say we want to set the text label, .text, equal to some pet, right? So let's use our pet's name, right? So we're going to go to self.pets. We want a specific pet, so we're going to use our index path to determine which pet. So our index path.row. And then we're going to set that to the pet's name. And then we can return the cell. Okay, if we've done this correctly, we should be able to run this, and we should see our pets. Okay, and I forgot one thing, which is in my storyboard, since I deleted the initial view controller, I have to set this navigation controller to the initial view controller so that when we start up, we see that table view. So now I go ahead and run it. It brings up my simulator. I should see the 3 pets that we created with their names. I can't remember what their names are, but so we got Sparky, Fido, and Bill, mapping to our 3 pets. And we can change our cells to look a little different, right? So we could change our cell type to, like, there's a style for the cell. So if I go ahead and grab the table view cell, I want the actual cell. So right detail, left detail, subtitle, we looked a little bit at that. So we're not doing anything with it right now other than we set that label. Those are predefined labels or images. Like if I look at the cells, there's one with an image or subtitles. Those cells are predefined structures. Like here's the controls that you have access to within that cell. You're stuck with that, and that's the way your cell's going to look. Well, in this case, I don't want that to be the case. Like I want my cells to look different. Okay, so maybe I want the names all centered in my table view for some reason. There's no way to do that with the cells that are there, but it's easy to customize it. And so I'm taking a simple route, like let's just put a label in the center of the cell. It's really easy. The reality is we can get way more complicated. We can do whatever we want. We can embed whatever controls we want inside of those cells. So we could have, if we go back to your lab, we might have an image for our pet. And then based on that image of our pet, we might embed a scroll view and an image view so that the user can zoom and pan on an image within a table view cell. Okay, so I mean, you can do whatever you want. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to use a custom table view cell. Okay, so I always have a hard time with that. That custom table view cell, it's kind of accessing our model data, but I would say it's more of in our controllers, even though it's not necessarily a controller. It's part of our controller. It's kind of a component of our controller. I have a hard time organizing it. It doesn't fit as nicely as everything else. It's not like, this is a user interface element. It kind of is a user interface element, right? It's a cell. So kind of, but I would argue that it's kind of a subset of our controller, a subset of our table. And so that's usually where I'll put these custom cells. So I'm going to have a new file. The new file is going to be a Cocoa Touch class, and our subclass is going to be a UITableViewCell. So I'm going to call this my pet table view cell. Okay, I don't need any of these overridden functions. Again, it's fine if they're there, but not necessary. All we're doing is calling the superclass. We're not customizing those methods at all. So I have that custom cell. And what I want to do is I want to say that the cells that I'm getting, so when I dequeue that reusable cell, It's one of these things. Okay, so two things I have to change to do that. So if I go back over to my view controller, when I dequeue that reusable cell, I'm still getting a UITableViewCell. When I dequeue the reusable cell, I'm going to dequeue it as a specific type. It's my pet table view cell. Okay, that's what you're getting. That's what the table contains, is those pet table view cells, that custom class that I just created. So when I dequeue the reusable cells, I want it to be my type. That's the cell type you're getting. And then the other change I have to make in order for this to happen is if I go over to the storyboard, I have to select the cell. And kind of like we do with the table view, I'm no longer dealing with just a generic UI table view cell. I'm dealing with my pet table view cell. So I'm saying that that cell is based on my custom class that I just created. Does that make sense? It's fairly easy. It's kind of like, hey, I have a view controller on my storyboard. I need to map it to a specific class, right? Same thing with our cell. I have a specific cell in my table view controller, and I need to map it to a specific class. It's no different. Okay, so then what I want to do is I want to render that pet's name in the center of this cell. So I'm going to go ahead and customize this cell. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm going to grab a label. I'm going to drag it into that cell. I'm going to set some constraints on it. So 0, 0, 0, 0, and I wanted to set equal. I'll add those 4 constraints. I wanted to set equal heights and widths, so equal heights and widths to the content. So I have all that set up. And then I want that specific cell to be center aligned. Okay? That's just the layout I'm going with. I'm customizing. It's not going to look good, but once I have that label set up, so once I have that label set up as a prototype cell, I need to be able to reference that cell so that, I'll show you what I mean. So if I go over to my demo table view controller, I set that text labels text to the pet's name. I want to be able to set my custom cells label that I just put on the screen. I want that custom cells label to be set to the pet's name. So I need a way to reference that custom label that I just set up for my custom cell. Okay? Does that make sense, what we're doing? So I have a custom label, or I'm sorry, I have a custom cell, and inside that custom cell, I have a label now that I want to be able to access right here so that I can set the pet's name. Okay, the way I'm going to do it is if I go out to my storyboard, I can use the assistant editor to work with this cell. So if I go to the assistant editor, I don't want the demo table view controller, I want the cell. And now I'm going to set up an outlet for that cell, or for the label within the cell. I'm just going to call it my main label. Okay, so now my custom cell has a main label, and I should be able to then access that main label. I'll close the assistant editor here so it's easier to see. So I have a specific type of cell because I said that the cell that I'm getting when I dequeue a reusable cell is of type pet table view cell. So that cell now has a main label. And I can set the text. Okay, so now if I run this, it doesn't look nice, but it's set up the way I want. Row height, I always struggle to find the row height for a cell. I know that sounds ridiculous, but there's a way to set the row height. And like by default, I think it's set to 44, if I remember correctly. I think it's 44. And the reason I say that is because I was just going through an example where I had to have the date pickers, and the date pickers, like the default height is different. It's 216, I think. So you kind of have to know the default height of some of these controls as you get into more complicated user interfaces, because you need row height allocated to it. So you can dynamically change the row height depending on the controls that are there. So now because I set a custom row height, I think it won't resize to based on the size of my content. And it's still resizing based on the size of my content. Let's blow up the font of this label too. I think the row height should have taken care of it, but okay. Not that exciting, but okay, so then let's make this a little bit more interesting. What I want to do is I have the pet names. What I want to do is I want to have an image for each pet. Okay. So if I go over to my pet model class, I want to change this. So I'm going to have a profile pic for my pet. It's going to be an image, UI image. Why is that not coming up? It should just be a UI image. Why am I not getting that UI type? It's just not in the foundation library is what I think is going on. Maybe I just want image. No. Why can't I add an image? I don't want a UI image view. It's in the UI kit. There we go. That's why I just didn't have the library imported. Okay, so then it's complaining about my initializer because I'm not using a profile pic for any of the pets yet. So I want to have the pic, which will be a UI image. I'll set the profile pic equal to the pic as it's passed in. So now I have issues when I create the pets. So if I go over to my pet manager, I can't just create pets that don't have profile pics. So it's complaining about that. So I want some images. I'm going to just bring in some image pictures or some images. So I'm going to do a Google image search for pet cat. Okay, so this is the one for me. So on the desktop, here's cat, pet dog. This one looks good. And pet cow. Which one do we like? This one looks good. Okay, so those are the 3 different JPEGs that I want. I'm going to load those into my assets. So I'm going to go grab them. So here's cat, cow, and dog. In they go. Probably should have worked on getting the same screen size or screen resolution, but whatever. What I'm going to do with this, though, is over in my storyboard, I have this label, and now I want an image for my my pet, right? So I'm going to grab a UI image view, and I'm going to drop it onto my cell. And I need to set some constraints. So I want equal heights, leading space, top space, bottom space, all set to 0. So I'm going to fix those constraints. So the image view leading should be 0. And the bottom will be 0. And the top will be 0. And I didn't set it to 0. I don't know what it's complaining about now. Need constraint for width. Yeah, I'll add the missing constraint. So now center aligning this causes a problem, and I don't know what it actually set the width to. So the width, where's the image view width? Am I missing that somewhere? Image view height. The width being 240, let's make it 180. Still cutting into our label. So I'm going to change the justification on my label, so I'm going to make it right justified. Okay, I'm going to need to be able to reference this image view. Okay, so because I want to reference that image view, and I don't know what error I have here. Yeah, so it's still complaining. I haven't fixed everything yet, but that's fine. What I want to do is I want to use my assistant editor to get a reference to that image view. So I don't want, and you'll notice I'm getting these interfaces. And the reason I'm getting interfaces as opposed to the actual class is because my application won't compile. So the assistant editor is not coming up correctly. So I'm going to fix it so that I can compile. So here we go. Well, let's just actually fix this code as opposed to commenting it out, and then we'll worry about the assistant editor and getting a reference to that image. So my dog here needs an image. So a UI image, and again, same thing. I need a reference to the UI kit. I want a UI image named, and then I'm going to give it my name, dog.jpg. I think that's what I called it. Not convertible to name, species, weight, double. Looks fine to me. I need the same thing here. And then the same thing here. I don't know why it doesn't like that syntax. If I say I want a new pet, oh, because I don't have the label for the pick. Looked fine for me, but it wasn't. And now what's wrong with it? Yeah, I'm just going to force unwrap everything. I don't want to create a variable for the image and then pass it in like a separate code. Like this is just cleaner and easier. And then this is complaining about that new line. So it won't let me treat this UI image explicitly. Like if I was being smart about it, why am I not getting pick? Argument labels named don't match. This looks right to me. I feel like that's what I had originally.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, this was exactly what I was trying to do. So I don't know why I was having an issue. Okay, so we're able to create our pets with our images, assuming that I have the right image names, and I can't remember if I... So it looks like it's lowercase for all of them. So it is case sensitive, so I'm going to fix it. Okay, so those are my pets. I'm going to go back to my storyboard. And now that I don't have any compilation errors, I should be able to bring up the assistant editor. And I'm still getting this interface. I don't want the interface. Like I want... Why am I still getting the interface? So it runs fine. And I shouldn't have to use the interface. Like I want that cell because I'm on the wrong view controller. There we go. Okay, so now when I have the correct view controller with my cell actually selected, I should be able to get a reference to this image, pet image, okay, which is a UI image view. Then what I want to do is over in my demo table view controller where I set the name of my pet, so I set that main label, I should be able to go to the cells. I can't remember what I called it. Was it pet image? Pet image, thank you. And I don't know why IntelliSense isn't coming up here. So pet image, and I want to set the image equal to self, pets. I want to go to the same row, and I want to get the profile pic. And if I've done this correctly, I should see a picture of my pets. It won't look good because they're all scaled differently. But we have our image, we have our name on the right and left. If I wanted to embed this image inside of a scroll view, I could do that. I'd have to implement that scroll view delegate to say which view am I returning. So I could do that as well. I can do whatever I want with these cells. So custom cells are not that much different than what we've been dealing with, kind of like creating view controllers and then mapping our view controllers to custom classes. It's not that much different. Like the The layout gets a little bit tougher, I think anyway. Like the constraints, you're kind of in that confined area of like, I only have this cell. So I'm kind of constraining myself to like, I'm bound to that cell. Like, how does my layout look within that cell? But other than that, I can do whatever I want. And you'll see applications do that. So like if they have those scroll views, it's almost always custom table view cells. Like I have Title, which is like a music service, and you can scroll through songs and stuff like that. It's exactly what they do. Or YouTube does the same thing. It's these custom table views and custom table view cells. Like this is how they lay it out. Yep. I don't know why I wasn't getting IntelliSense for this cell. I should have been. So I don't know. I'm not positive why it didn't know that pet image attribute about my cell, but it should have. Who's sick of table views now? I am too. But the truth is it has to be easy for you. It really does. Like this is a common user interface pattern, is this table view. Like there's not really that much to it. Like how many sections, how many rows, what data is backing up that table view, and then I render it out. Like it shouldn't be something that's going to slow you down at all. Like I want to render my data in a table view. Okay, give me the data and give me 10 minutes and I'll have something rendered out. Like whether it looks good or not, I have to play with the constraints. Like you saw that with the calculator. It takes a while to get the look and feel the way you want it to. Same thing's going to happen to you here. Like that, it doesn't change. Okay. This is actually a good breaking point. So it's not 6:30 yet, but let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break now, and then I want to get right into encoding and decoding data. So I want to work with JSON data, and we'll look at encoding and decoding that data as opposed toplists and then some of the issues that come up with it. So at 6:17, let's break till 6:27, and then when we come back, we'll do encoding and decoding.